Hello, how's it going? Back again with another video for you guys. And this is going to be a general checklist, meaning that this should be 100% taken care of in your Google Ads account. If you have a team member or an agency or whoever, is managing your Google Ads, or if you're the one doing it, look for these issues first, because this is going to essentially allow you to scale or not to scale. And we're going to go through this quick, super easy checklist. It'll be like, 5 things to just pretty much make sure that they're in the account no matter what. Because they're not, then typically large issues arise from that. And there's a lot of other small issues that can also pop up from there. So, anyways, the first concept is warm versus cold traffic. So I'll give some examples on this, right? So think of warm, for example, like a warm campaign would be something like a brand campaign, right? So you have a branded search campaign and it's, getting warmed up traffic already. You're not necessarily going out and getting cold new traffic. It's purely just someone that has already known you. Now, sometimes people think that warm traffic is pretty easy in terms of just seeing which traffic is warm, which is cold. And in a sense, yes, it can be. However, a lot of people tend to believe that, Performance Max is driving a lot of new sales, but the reality is that warm and cold tend to blend together in those types of campaigns. And it typically goes warm in most cases. But with that being said, there are other instances too where there might be a campaign type, for example, like a search campaign that's showing cold terms, but it's only going towards warm traffic. So with this in mind, this is sort of the biggest thing to solve when you have an account, is locating where's the cold traffic coming from and where's the warm traffic coming from. If you don't have that segmentation in here and there's not really an understanding of it, you need to find a way to segment it out, because it's just going to get harder and harder and harder the more you scale. And especially if you're not at goal, it's probably because, for example, you might be having a Performance Max campaign that's just scooping up a lot of brand traffic or a lot of repeat customers, especially if you have a product that can be repurchased again and again and again. Then Performance Max becomes a larger issue. So, like I said, number one thing to look at, I would say, is this segmentation. We could talk more about that in a later video as well as past videos, but this is the number one issue I see in accounts. The other thing, which I'll kind of go into, is the basic stuff. Is we'll see accounts that, let's say they're targeting the United States, and then they'll show presence or interest. And this is something that we say no, because it's going to be targeting people that are obviously going to be in your location, but also outside of your location that might just be interested in your location. So I've only used this for specifically like people that are in travel. So like catamarans or hotels, whatever the case is, where, there's people outside of the area that are looking at the area and are interested in the area, then it makes sense. But if it's not travel focused, I tend to stay away and always use presence, like I said, in about 99% of scenarios. Pretty much a rule across the board for every single account. I've seen this switch back all the time, and it's a simple fix. You just go into settings and change that, and it can make your account 10 times better. Now, the other thing as well, too, that I see in a lot of accounts that we're getting is this little icon. Move this over. Icon here, right? So, sorry, it's pixelated, but it's essentially a search campaign with display showing. Now, Google reps always seem to try to push this because they want to get you to spend more money, because they think, oh, we're going to get in front of more eyes. It's going to be better. Never the case. I've never seen this work. I've managed hundreds of accounts, and this has never worked ever. Ever. So if you see this little icon or this signal in your account, there's probably something wrong. They're probably running display inside of your search campaign, or they are running display inside of your search campaign, and all of that display traffic is essentially wasted spend. It's just pushing the budget in Google's eyes to say, yes, we could spend everything, and it's not getting you the results you want. So I've never seen this work in accounts, literally never. So I always turn this off, always start with just basic search, and then I advance out more into like search network partners a little bit later, typically. Now, the other thing as well, too, is we'll see certain actions. Now, this one is a correct example, but this would be, for example, making sure that the action optimization is only set to primary on one of the conversion actions that you're trying to go after, unless you're using campaign specific account, or you're using campaign specific goals, not account goals. So what we see as well in a lot of accounts is there'll be a purchase conversion on primary, an add to cart conversion on primary, and then a website visit on primary. So it's duplicating out that like crazy, and you're essentially triple counting, if not more, well, definitely way more conversions that are essentially pretty much giving you bad data in the account. And it's awful. You don't want to do that. You want to try to make sure that you're only optimizing towards the one goal, not multiple goals that are overlapping with one another. We also look at the conversion source. So typically in the conversion source, you want to look at the just general, if it's like a Google hosted event, then you can't change that. It might still be primary. That's okay. But if it's website or anything else like imported, and there are multiple ones set to primary, then you're probably duplicate counting. I would take that in a sort of position of, okay, let's fix this issue first before we move on to anything else, because these are, like I said, just the basics that should be taken care of. Now, the other thing as well, too, that I see a lot of people, even advanced people, don't necessarily look at and they don't really know too much about, is the ecom prod ID. So this is mainly for if you're, well, only for if you're selling products specifically. So you're running shopping campaigns and you have a product page that you're sending people to, and there's a bunch of different variations of that product, right? It's not just one product. So the way that you would look for this would go into audiences and then data sources. It would pull up, a bunch of these. So it'd be like Google Ads tag, Google Analytics tag, and you select details, and it'll pull you to this page here, which is data source hits. And we're gonna look at here and see ecom prod ID, right? And this is obviously it's hitting. And then we have ecom prod ID right here that's fired only 10% of the time. That's okay. Now, ideally, you want to get this number up. However, tracking is not going to be 100% accurate. So you need to have, for example, server-side tracking or edge tag that will increase this number. Not a huge deal, but ecom prod ID is something that many people fail to use. And what it allows you to do is actually do, dynamic remarketing in an accurate manner, right? So we can say if someone saw product A, the algorithm knows it saw product A, and maybe it finds out that people that see product A typically purchase product B. And so then it might remarket them product B after they purchase product A. Whereas if we didn't have dynamic remarketing, it would just show them product A, product B. It wouldn't really know, and it couldn't really build a pathway on what the user is actually learning and wanting to buy next. From the previous purchase that they had already. So this is really heavy in, obviously you can do like display dynamic remarketing or even Performance Max, which it has that already built into the system. So if you are running Performance Max and you are not seeing ecom prod IDs fire at all, even if this number is like 3%, that's okay. It's better than 0, but you just want to make sure that it is firing on the page. Because it'll allow you to essentially machine learn in a better manner when it comes to remarketing for users. So I see this issue, like I said, a lot, and I would highly recommend taking a look at this because this is going to play into your entire strategy, because you might find out that you have a lot of remarketing to grow inside of Performance Max in a more efficient way, and you're not even utilizing the capabilities of it properly. So these are just some checks and balances that I like to kind of keep in mind. Whenever I'm looking at Google Ads accounts from just that general perspective of this isn't every single account that we look at, we check these things first because this is going to allow us to decide, hey, if we scale up warm, for example, efficiency is not going to be good because we're capturing already more bottom of funnel traffic. We're not generating more new revenue per se. We're just paying more for potentially repeat revenue. Now, there's a balance between these two that you want to make sure that you have cold traffic maybe at this amount, and then you have warm traffic that says, okay, we're pushing cold way too much. Warm traffic we need to remarket a little bit more, so maybe let's bump that a little bit. But typically it's the opposite issue. Typically it's extremely high warm, ROAS looks great, but the overall efficiency is just terrible. It's typically one of these scenarios where, Performance Max is up here. You might have like one outbound campaign maybe, but in most cases I see that just with Performance Max, and Meta is really doing all the work if you're running Meta and Performance Max. So keep your segments figured out. Make sure that you have warm and cold traffic as a baseline. And then obviously the fun part when it comes to being a more advanced marketer is trying to leverage the right cold channels as much as possible on a profitability standpoint to your overall new customer acquisition. So anyways, I hope you guys like this video, and I'll see you in the next one.